If leadership begins anywhere, it begins with knowing yourself. Welcome to Coaching Talks, folks. I'm Richard Fontanie, and this is where we explore practical leadership strategies and professional development ideas that you can apply in the real world. Now, whether you lead a team, manage a project, or simply want to grow in your career, and today's conversation focuses on self-awareness and why it is the foundation of personal growth at work and in your leadership style. Now, before we go any further, if you find these conversations helpful, please take a moment to subscribe. Your subscription helps us continue delivering content that supports thoughtful, grounded leadership in today's workplace. Now, self-awareness is often described as a soft skill, yet research consistently shows it is among the strongest predictors of leadership effectiveness. Leaders who understand their behaviors, their emotions, and their impact build trust more quickly, make better decisions, and adapt more readily to change. Now, those who lack self-awareness may have strong technical skills, but often they struggle with blind spots that limit their influence. At its core, self-awareness is the ability to recognize your thoughts, your feelings, and those inner states that shape your actions. In the workplace, this awareness shows up in your communication style, your response to conflict, and in your decision-making habits. A leader who notices rising frustration can pause before reacting. A manager who recognizes discomfort with delegation can intentionally build trust rather than cling to control. Now, here are 7 strategies that guide us on our leadership journey. The first strategy for building self-awareness is intentional reflection. High-performing professionals regularly take time to review their experiences. This doesn't require long journaling sessions. Even a few minutes at the end of the day asking what went well, what drained my energy, can really create the insight that you need. One senior manager I worked with discovered through reflection that his most stressful meetings shared a common trigger: unclear expectations. Adjusting how he prepared agendas dramatically reduced tension in the room. The second strategy is to seek feedback with curiosity. Self-awareness leaders understand that feedback is information and not a verdict. In traditional workplaces, performance reviews, peer feedback, and 360-degree assessments surface blind spots. The key is listening without being defensiveness, and that's hard. When leaders respond with curiosity rather than justification, they signal psychological safety and model growth for their teams. The third strategy is emotional literacy. Now, being self-aware means accurately naming emotions. Stress, frustration, disappointment, and fear are often lumped together. Yet, each calls for a different response. A project leader who recognizes anxiety beneath his impatience addresses the root causes rather than the symptoms. Emotional clarity reduces reactive behavior and fosters thoughtful leadership. The fourth strategy is understanding personal values. Now, values quietly guide decisions, priorities, and boundaries. When leaders don't align with their values, dissatisfaction follows. Now, here's a story about a director who shared that despite her career success, she felt constantly conflicted. Now, through coaching, she realized that collaboration was a core value, yet her role rewarded competition. Now, this awareness helped her adjust her leadership style and advocate for healthier team dynamics. The fifth strategy is recognizing patterns under pressure. Stress reveals habits, and some leaders become controlling, while others withdraw. Self-aware professionals notice these patterns and prepare for them. Now, here's a story about a plant manager who learned that during peak production periods, he defaulted to micromanaging. Naming this tendency helped him set up awareness check-ins rather than taking over his employees, preserving morale during high-pressure periods. Now, the sixth strategy is aligning strengths with responsibilities. Now, self-awareness helps leaders place themselves and others where they can perform their best. Knowing your strengths allows you to leverage them intentionally, while acknowledging your limits encourages greater collaboration. Now, there once was a department head who recognized her strategic strength and partnered closely with an operations lead. And that created a more balanced leadership approach that benefited the entire team. Now, the seventh strategy is committing to continuous growth. And self-awareness is not a destination, but an ongoing practice. As roles evolve, new blind spots emerge. Effective leaders revisit self-awareness regularly through coaching, learning, and reflection. It is well recognized that growth-minded leaders recognize that adaptability depends on awareness. And in this regard, you may want to consider our Biswali system. I've provided the link below. Now, workplace stories consistently highlight the cost of low self-awareness. Now, this is not a myth. Teams disengage when leaders are unaware of their impact. Conflict escalates when emotions go unexamined. And conversely, workplaces led by aware individuals have higher trust, stronger communication, and greater resilience during change. Now, personal growth in leadership doesn't require perfection. It does require honesty, though. When leaders acknowledge missteps and learn from them, credibility increases. You know, employees don't expect you to act without flaws, but they do expect you to act with authenticity and accountability. Now, before we close, I want to caution you not to become overwhelmed by self-awareness, not to let it become a barrier to moving forward. In other words, not to be so self-aware that you become paralyzed and unable to act. Now, this is about ensuring that our consciousness and ego are intact so that we can be fully aware without the negative consequences of that awareness. And Carl Jung warned us in this regard and spent considerable time ensuring that our ego doesn't get in the way of our progress and that self-awareness doesn't ruin our lives. Now, as we conclude, consider this question. How well do you know yourself at work? Not your job title or performance metrics, but your inner drivers. Awareness creates choice, and choice creates growth. So this week, choose one leadership situation and reflect on your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in that situation. Growth begins the moment awareness replaces our tendency to act on autopilot. Now, thank you for listening, folks. Please subscribe. As I mentioned, it goes a long way to bring our conversations to others. And thank you for doing so. I'm Richard Fontanie, signing off for now. Let's meet again next Wednesday to explore the theme of growth mindset as it plays out in the traditional workplace. Until then, bye now.